And so there's just a lot that goes into the high pressure nature of the position. And I think that that is unique in that it can lead to more opportunities for burnout if there's not proper support and higher levels of stress. And just how do you manage that whole piece?
This is Joe Martin, Executive Director, Texas High School Coaches Association. Thank you for joining us today on our podcast. Before we get started, a few updates regarding the spring of 2025. Just reminding you that our 25-26 THSCA membership is available to you on our website. And encourage you to sign up as soon as possible, and don't forget your liability insurance as you do that. Also, coaching school tuition is available on our website currently, and you can go to into the portal. You can go to our website and be able to sign up and get your tuition to coaching school, which will be in San Antonio. The Hall of Honor is July the 19th, and coaching school runs July 20 through 22, with a regional meeting being on July the 21st on that Monday, and our general meeting the 22nd. And just reminding you that those two meetings are not the same, and we encourage you to attend both of those meetings, along with the 250 to 270 hours of professional development. We look forward to seeing you at coaching school. The sooner you sign up, the cheaper it is. And providing that you have membership going into coaching school, you'll be set and ready to go coming out of coaching school for the new school year 25-26. As you know, the 89th legislative session started in January. A lot of updates on our website, a lot of things that potentially can impact you, us, all of our coaches and athletics across the state of Texas. So stay tuned to our website. We will be involving updates through Sports U and sending legislative updates as we need you as this session grows beyond vouchers and the UIL bills that are out there. We will be fighting for you in our profession, and we need your help. So stay tuned. When we can get information to you, please respond as soon as possible. Have a great day. This is going to be a great podcast.
Hey coaches, did you know we're now offering shows for all sports? That's right, whether it's basketball, volleyball, softball, baseball, football, soccer, you name it, we've got you covered. If you're looking for a way to showcase your program, promote your players, and highlight the amazing things happening with your team, our coaches shows are the perfect solution. Plus, our business model lets you or your booster club raise money while building excitement and support for your program. Don't miss the opportunity to take your team's story to the next level. Find out how you can get your very own coaches show. Reach out to Chris at 713-269-4620 today. That's 713-269-4620, because every team deserves the spotlight. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Coach's Call. I'm Chris Doelle, and I have a very interesting topic today. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of good information out of it. And I'm going to hand the mic over to Mike Harrison, who's the head athletic trainer for Allen High School. And Mike, if you could introduce your guest and what we're going to talk about, and I'll just sit back and listen.
I'm here with Dr. Patel, Director of Pediatric Psychology at Dell Children's Medical Center. Today's topic is mental health for coaches. So, Dr. Patel, if you mind introducing yourself, your role in the medical community and Texas High School Coaches Association.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for having me. I am the Director of Pediatric Psychology, and I've had the opportunity to support our high schools through our Texas Child Mental Health Care programming in the community, where we've been able to promote awareness of mental health and just support how to encourage athletes' mental well-being, as well as support coaches in looking for signs and symptoms of how to promote best mental performance and overall just resilience within our players.
Okay, thank you. First question, how do you define mental health or mental fitness, and how is it distinct from general well-being?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. General well-being is kind of includes everything. It's our physical health, our social connections, life satisfaction, not just the mental aspect. And when we think about mental health specifically is honing in on our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. And so thinking about how we manage our emotions, how we're thinking and making rational decisions, and also how we connect to others at an interpersonal level. And truly, when we think about mental fitness, it's really building up that resiliency piece that we know how to bounce back from setbacks and adapt to challenging situations.
What are some unique stressors or mental health challenges that coaches face compared to other professions?
Yeah, I think being a coach is an incredible opportunity to shape lives, and it comes with a lot of pressure, right? So athletic coaches are under constant pressure to manage, complex interpersonal relationships between athletes, amongst themselves, dealing with high expectations of the organizations that they're working for. Also, within athletics itself, there's so much unpredictable nature, right, of competition and long working hours. And the potential for it's a very public position because your games and your scores are out there for others to have opinions about. And so there's just a lot that goes into the high pressure nature of the position. And I think that is unique in that it can lead to more opportunities for burnout if there's not proper support and higher levels of stress. And just how do you manage that whole piece?
Thank you. For head coaches and athletic directors, what are some effective ways to check in on their staff's mental health without being intrusive?
Yeah, it's a really good question because I think it's important one just to show that you care, but you also don't want to overstep. And so when we think about how important mental health is, we want to kind of start by just setting the stage. And so what you want to think about is how do you just prioritize communication in general, right? And start to think about focusing on check-ins and just tweaking it a little bit by instead of just saying, "Hey, how you doing?" Actually think about, "Well, hey, I'm just wondering, that was really stressful. How are you coping with that?" Or just generally noticing observations, but being specific in the way that you're checking in. And so you create this atmosphere of just discussing and normalizing challenges and how we cope with them. And I think creating that environment then makes people feel comfortable and safe to be able to talk about it more. And so then it feels less of an intrusion.
What strategies can head coaches implement to foster a culture where it's okay for their staff to express when they're struggling?
Yeah, I think that's really key. And I think it's kind of hard, right? One of the things that you want to do is really try to think about ways to have that open communication. And so so the check-ins, like I was just talking about, when that happens, like taking a moment to actively listen. So one, setting up the time and facilitating opportunities for open communication, but then really focusing and listening to individuals' concerns and normalizing what it means, as they're sharing their experiences. And perhaps that means you're sharing your experiences and your vulnerabilities as well to create that connection. As the more you do that, that creates open channels of communication and it allows this no shame approach, right? That we're all here to help. We're all working together. And we're just focusing on creating this environment that fosters safety and connection to allow for more of those opportunities to talk about when you do struggle, it's okay.
So in one of the strategies, would a head coach have let's say, possibly an open door policy where you can have one-on-one or maybe talk about an event or something in a group setting when you're conducting your pre-practice planning or preseason planning and that? Would that be
Yeah, those are great examples. Yeah, I think those are great examples. And, another way to kind of think about it too is when you do have those one-on-ones or those open door policies, really thinking about how you're going to emphasize confidentiality, right? So if people do come to you, creating an atmosphere of individually, you're not talking about their struggles overall and asking them how do they feel best supported, but then just creating a bigger dialogue within the group that it's okay for everybody to be talking about this and thinking about this.
Thank you. What are some feelings or responses that are normal under high pressure circumstances, and how can coaches differentiate these from signs that might need help?
Yeah, because we just talked about coaching and athletics. There's a lot of stress in that, and we normally have have normal responses to stress. And, that like when we're in high intense situations, normal things, physical sensations, whatever that looks like for you. So, there's the increased heart rate and tension, butterflies in your stomach, those kinds of things. Maybe in that moment, you might, when you're very stressed, have a little bit of difficulty thinking, or like have some negative self-talk if it didn't go so well, or just feeling nervous or irritable, right? If things are not going exactly how you wish. These are all normal. Under stress, we might snap at somebody. I think when we want to notice where it's taking a turn for the worst is if it's more intense anxiety than just like that moment, but it's persisting. And maybe if it goes to panic attacks per se, or you notice that you can't calm down. So in the moment, you feel the stress and the pressure, but afterwards, it's persisting longer than just that moment. Or you're noticing declines in the performance. So you're not typically performing like you normally would, and that's really sticking. Then you feel like that's a good sign too. I would say withdrawal, also social withdrawal. So what we want to do in high intense pressure situations is seek out our supports and lean on them. And I think when we see individuals retreating or kind of going into their own, kind of taking away from the team, that's never a good sign unless they're actively saying, I need this space. That's different, right?
Like maybe withdrawal or something like the
withdrawal, isolation.
withdrawing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not being as active in like huddles or like not really volunteering like they would, showing up late. So just a change in performance. And I think sometimes a more unhealthy coping mechanism can be using substances. And, all of us will be like, hey, I'm going to go grab a drink, or I need a drink. We use those jokes, but thinking about using substances as our sole way of coping and not using other things can also be a warning sign too.
We hit a little bit on there. Is there any other warning signs? Especially, is it an overall general? Can it be age specific, like a new coach, gung ho, high pressure, an older coach who may be in, or someone who's in the middle of the road, or does it just affect everyone in general at different times?
That's a good question. I think everyone in general at different times, depending on their experiences, right? And I do think, I will say, if you're a new coach, you have more vulnerable periods. So I think when you're doing it for the first time and you're starting off and you need to build confidence, that might be a little bit more intense. And I think thinking about vulnerabilities like that, or thinking about other times when it's a really intense game or the stakes are really high and you need to win for funding or whatever that is, those are going to increase vulnerability. And you want to make sure to really facilitate support in those times. And I think when things don't go well, because as life happens, things don't go well. So really taking time out to support and check in with the person and your coaches and your team.
What are some simple daily practices coaches can adopt to manage their mental health effectively?
Yeah. I think that there's, one of them is just kind of fostering a growth mindset. And I think naturally sports is developed that way. But thinking about viewing stressors as challenges and really coming up with like a mantra for the team or for yourself, and kind of keeping how you can keep persistence and focus even in the face of adversity or stress or systemic challenges. But another one is also just thinking about how do you bring in peace of calm or a sense of centeredness. And, that can just be using calming techniques or relaxation. And that doesn't necessarily have to be when things are going wrong, but I think just bringing it in as a general practice. So there are all of these apps that you can use if you find one that you really like the Calm app, or just like some breathing techniques or strategies or visual imagery that you do maybe as a team or as a group or individually that can kind of help people. And also just communicating, I think, creating communication kind of in a broader sense of just like psychoeducation around like what is mental health, and on the concern side, but also on the well-being side, and giving education about like nutrition and coping and, all these different ways that people have access to, and bringing in the ones you think that will resonate with your team and your folks.
So going forward, let's talk a little bit at work-life balance. For coaches juggling long hours, as we usually do, and then family commitments, what are some practical ways to maintain a healthy balance between family and our profession?
Yeah, I think, so I think one of the things I will say is that balance is hard. And I think that one of the things that, in terms of having equal amounts of time for both things, right? But I do think it's asking yourself, like, what are the things that are important to me? And, one of the questions that I've heard asked is like, what am I going to remember myself? Or like, what do I want to be remembered by? What do I want my legacy to be? And really looking at what is your priority and then thinking about how you refocus your time and energy as possible, really focusing on that priority, right? And then thinking about how you integrate. So if we take kind of balance and replace it with integrate, so do you include your family into some of these events? Or how do you pull in your priorities so that you are kind of sharing time? And then also having the balance part of it is I'm going to give more time maybe here at work right now in the season, and this is what it looks like, and this is how I have, and then I'm going to switch it on off season. So kind of thinking about different ways to create your intention, but always thinking about what your priority is and making sure to include that so that you feel fulfilled, even when there is kind of a lot of demands placed on you.
I get some thoughts, and I know we do some here. Maybe integrating families in social functions, like after post game family time with meals and dinners. Maybe social activity on the weekends that may be set through periodic times to have that. Or maybe cutting your hours off early when you get things done so your coaches can go spend time with coaches, or those effective strategies to help employ in your program.
I love that. Those are great examples of being able to kind of integrate both sides and honor both parts.
Let me ask you this. Especially with young coaches who are just starting their families, and especially with new children coming in, those can be a lot of stressors. Do you have maybe some type of strategies for some younger coaches who are going through that?
What I think would be really is helpful is maybe even thinking about like a mentor, a coach that's further along to kind of mentor on a personal level, and to just have that person be able to go, to their mentor coach, and kind of talk through some of those challenges. Because I think that some of it is just normalizing that when you have young children or you're starting something for the first time, it is really hard, right? And really helping validate that process. And then thinking about tips and tools of how to help them manage. I'm sure a lot about time management, in addition to just kind of making sure that they're honing in on what helps them stay resilient. Because all these people, they've gotten to this point, they know, they've done things to help them be successful. And so you want to hold on to those. And it gets so much more complicated when you go into new situations, or you have young children, or you have life's demands pulling you at both ends.
Right. And I guess maybe, such effective could be maybe the coaches' wives groups, and they're starting a meal train for that family or something for the first couple of weeks of a newborn or adjusting.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go the other side with this. Let's go with, the other side of tragedy and death that we all experience that in our families. And those are hard to cope with at times. It gives hard time stressors on families. And I'm also going to take it further. It's a two-part question. Coaches having to deal with the death of an athlete. And that's a hard, I've experienced it here, and it's twice. And it's a struggle for coaches.
Yeah. Yeah, because your athletes are part of your family, an extension of all of the people that you care about. And so that makes a lot of sense that it is hard. And I think in those times, I think it's really important to acknowledge the loss and to create, community and support within that, and that it's okay to be sad, and normalizing that piece, and just kind of assessing what is possible, and maybe honoring the player or the person that's passed away as you play, or kind of thinking of ways to honor that person that feel right for you and your team. But it is really hard. And I think in those kinds of times, sometimes it can be helpful to reach out if it feels so hard to not be able to meet the needs or the demands of your job. Like sometimes that is when you want to reach out and talk to someone outside of work, right? But I also think coming and building a community around that, it can create stronger bonds as well. So I think it's a little bit of both, but it's very hard.
And I want to put in here, it's okay to talk to people outside of your group too, like seeking professional help and that. There's no there's no shame in doing that.
Yep. And I think it's really, in that process, like talking to the coaches too about what is available to them, right? And it doesn't, and I think what's helpful is to do it not necessarily when people are in crisis. Obviously, you want to do it then, but like just from the beginning, like this is just something we offer. And I love the analogy of, if I'm trying to get in shape, I'm going to hire a personal trainer. And if I want to keep my mind sharp, I have a psychologist, and that looks different for different people, but I think just normalizing the fact that this is a tool and a support that can really help with your mental health overall. And we all need that sometimes. And it can look different. It doesn't have to be a psychologist. It could be your priest. It could be, there's all sorts of people that give support and build your resiliency. You just have to know what that is for you.
How can the coaching staff work together to ensure no one's bearing too much stress alone?
Mm-hmm. I think that comes with like just at the very beginning, just checking in, like saying, hey, I want to, what's our code for like if your stress level gets beyond this point, or like, we all want to work together as a team. And so sometimes you're going to carry a bigger burden than me. And sometimes I'm going to carry a bigger burden than you, but we don't want anybody to carry such a big burden, right? That it's going to burn you out, because we need all of us. We need to work together as a team. So I think one, just having that open communication and then delineating specific responsibilities as people start. And so what those are and checking in. And it's okay to cover for each other, but also if someone's covering too much, right, you want to really check in and hone in on that person, so that you have just kind of, it's never as easy or equitable all around, but just kind of that open communication for people, because I might be having a hardship in my life right now and I need your help, right? But I want to be able to communicate that to you, and you hand it back to me too at some point, so that you're not carrying it for the long haul.
Be kind of like people who like, let's say, well, if I want to get it done this way, I'm just going to do it myself, instead of reaching out and delegating to and asking for that help.
Well, and then, sometimes the challenge that comes with delegating is that I worry you're going to get it wrong, or you're not going to do it, and I think for that, as a head coach, just like normalizing, there are younger coaches, or our team is not going to learn if we don't let them make mistakes. Think back to when just think back to when you did this, like you had to learn somehow, and you want them to stay for the long haul. So you need them to learn how to do things. And that's, the idea is also kind of this fostering growth of everybody together. And if we just do it ourselves all the time, we're not empowering our group, right, to be strong together.
And to have positive and constructive criticism to correct those to get better.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the short-term and long-term consequences of neglecting the mental health for coaches?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's high rates of anxiety and depression, and just maladaptive coping. Those are things that can, lead, if you stay under stress for too long without support. Just there's a lot of vulnerability to mental health conditions and manifestations.
And how does a coach's mental health, whether it be positive or negative, how does it impact their athletes on and off the field?
Yeah, it does. Actually, there's good research to show that your coaching style matters. Like when you have a positive coach that can model coping and resiliency, the team is going to feel more supported. They're going to perform better, right? They're going to have better just outlooks. They're going to work harder. And on the flip side, if there's a coach that's a little more stressed maybe and is not able to manage those things, the team is negatively impacted, and they don't feel, they're going to start to internalize some of that stress themselves. And so it's really a protective factor. When you think about being on a plane and you put on the oxygen mask first for yourself and then the child, and, if you think about the team as a child, the more the coach takes care of themselves, the more centered and well they are, that has very positive effects for the athletes and the team.
Do you think in your experience, do you think our athletes are intuitive in sensing a change in coaching styles in a stressful situation?
Yes, I think people, but especially athletes, but especially youth, are really sensitive to that. They know, especially because you've created a bond around working, and they're really, a lot of times athletes internalize the voice of their coach many years after into their future in adulthood, right? And so thinking about that you are instilling their internal voice around performance. And they are just very sensitive and susceptible to that, whether you appreciate it or not. And it's hard, you think you might be masking it, but oftentimes they are not fooled.
How would a coach go about if a team is feeling that change in the environment of that? How would a coach go about placing something to correct that?
Yeah, I think I would say modeling. And what I mean by that is that I would say, hey guys, I'm really stressed right now. I've got some stuff going on outside of work. And I think, today in practice, you saw that. I'm gonna do some stuff to take care of myself to get back in a good place. We all have days like that, but I expect the same from you, right? I think just showing, because no one's perfect, no one's asking anyone to do it right every time. But I think explaining, you're human, this is happening, but here's what I'm going to do to make it better. Because now you're showing by modeling to these athletes that it's okay to not be okay, and I'm going to do what I need to fix it, right? I'm going to help us as a team.
And sometimes as coaches, we put stress on ourselves with our athletes, because some of our athletes too, they're going through those stressors that that it may be a family situation. And how do you reach out to those athletes to help them get through? And I know this is on a coaching topic, but also it's with the athlete's topic. And we can build our own stress trying to help that athlete.
It is true. And I think you have to, so one, as a coach, you have to realize all you can do is be there, see the signs and symptoms, and be supportive, right? So be there for the athlete, be their support system, and know that you don't have control over what's happening at home. And actually, you just being there and being supportive is huge. Oftentimes, athletes that are going through a lot outside of the game and in their own life, they come to play to be with a team, to be where they feel supported, to be where they feel seen and successful. And so you just providing that atmosphere for them and showing that you care goes a long way.
Excellent. So to kind of wrap this up, what are some resources or support systems that you could recommend for coaches looking to prioritize their mental health?
Yeah, I think one, just increasing their awareness of mental health. And then, I think just in awareness of mental health in terms of being more in tune with their body and their mind and noticing what their self-talk is and starting to use things that help build their resiliency. And whether that be taking 15 minutes of gratitude every day. There's a lot of research that shows that building a gratitude practice creates a good offset for stress. Or integrating in your family life into work, right? So that you feel more centered. I think finding the priority for you that helps you feel good and implementing that, I think, is a really helpful, just simple strategy. But also creating a sense of calm that you can practice every day. So I would say a relaxation strategy, whether that be visual imagery or breathing or meditation, mindfulness, some sort of practice that you can cultivate, I would say has just profound benefits, both health and mental health.
I found for myself that I'll inhale for four seconds, hold that for 4 seconds, and exhale for 4 seconds. And I'll do it for 3 times just to kind of
reset
myself calm, centered, and I found it's a good strategy for me. Maybe for others it doesn't work, but I found that helps for me.
Yeah. And sometimes I think a simple one that I do is I will put my feet on the ground and I will start to feel the soles of my feet pushing on the ground. And so it kind of takes me out of my head and my stress and brings me back into the moment. And then I'll focus on my breathing. But I think it's just figuring out that technique for yourself.
From an administrative level, what advice do you have for athletic directors and head coaches on making mental health a consistent priority for their teams and for their coaching staffs?
Yeah, I think it's just that mental health matters and it makes a meaningful difference. And so if you can bring it in, make it a part of the conversation and normalize it, you are not only going to help performance, you're going to help morale, you're going to help everybody just feel better in a system that is very stressful, right? But it needs to be fun and healthy. And I think even if these kids don't go on to be professional athletes, they are learning these tools for life. They get to carry that with them. And I think that's a really big deal from people they care about. They care so much about their coaches and what they think.
Thank you. To sum it up, we've defined mental health, the role of the head coach and supportive structures, dealing with family, how to recognize the normal versus a concern, strategies and solutions, and some resources, and the importance of mental health care today and how much it really affects our coaches and our athletes. And Dr. Patel, I'd like to thank you for your time today, and I'd like to give this back to Chris Doelle.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you so much. And this is just one of the examples of, I don't know, what I find so useful about not only this show, but the Coaches Association. Well, as an organization, it has at its core to help coaches help kids. So I love this stuff. Thank you so much, Dr. Patel. And thank you, Mr. Harrison, for all the great questions. Good stuff.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, of course, I want to thank our guest, but I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me what I consider the most valuable thing you can give, your time and your attention. And I know you don't do it to hear me. You do it for the great messages provided by the THSCA. And hey, if you'd like to associate your company with the THSCA and the Coaches Call podcast, limited sponsorship opportunities are available. You can reach out to me, Chris Doelle, 713-269-4620, or head over to my website, freshmediaworks.com. Once again, thank you so much for supporting Texas high school coaches. Please share this show out to everybody you can so that we can help share these important messages. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time on The Coaches Call. The interviews in this show are brought to you by the Texas High School Coaches Association. THSCA provides to its more than 26,000 members access to the people, events, tools, and resources to help them thrive in the profession, become trusted leaders in their communities, and live balanced and successful lives. The work and sacrifice coaches do every day is vital to the development and success of student athletes. The THSCA supports these efforts. We fight for every coach, provide them with the connections and resources to improve their lives, and help all student athletes throughout the state enjoy lasting success. The mission statement is simply this: to help and serve Texas high school coaches as they work to help and serve student athletes. Helping coaches help kids. For more information on the THSCA, visit www.thsca.com.